All right, in this truly last section, I want to look at online etiquette and responsibility. And the first document I have here is a 2-page online etiquette guide for my students. I probably need to update it, but it's a good starting point for the students. I'm not going to read it to you, but if you want to email me, I'll be happy to share it with you. The kids often have a lot of experience playing around online, goofing off with their friends online, sending text messages where being aware of a larger audience is not important for them. So I have to remind them that the anything online that we do together, the forum, the Ning, anything I ask them to do online is an extension of the classroom. And so that all behavioral expectations that I would have for them while they are in my classroom on my campus are going to apply to anything they do in the virtual world as part of our classroom as well. So avoiding language that might come across as strong or offensive, keeping their writing to a point, staying on topic. This is more important for those who tend to wander a little bit. Reading, ponder, and then respond. Many of them just want to do a real quick off-the-cuff response rather than really thinking about it. Write, review, and then send. I think it's a vital skill that they need to be taught by somebody, and since I can't find anybody else who's teaching them, I try to at least work with them on realizing that anything they send cannot be unsent. And if once we have a class discussion about things they've texted or put up and wish they hadn't, once they realized how it came across, everybody has some story to tell. A reminder, the online forum is an extension of the classroom. And then some basics of the language of the internet. Many of the kids do understand that all capital letters is a form of shouting, but some of them don't. And of course, emoticons have now given way to actual smileys, so that's a little bit outdated. Participation, the importance of not just lurking, being persistent with the technology. I've heard people say that, oh, all kids are just naturals. They're digital natives when it comes to technology. That has not been my experience. When we got our Mac lab a few years ago, I was shocked to see how resistant some of the students really were. And as soon as any little thing went wrong, they just blamed it all on Mac. And it took me a while to realize that really the issue was that they didn't have the ego strength to admit that they didn't understand and to ask questions. They knew that there's this societal pressure for all kids to be excellent, automatic geniuses when it comes to technology. And so rather than actually recognizing that they were stuck, needed help, needed to have somebody assist them who maybe was a few steps ahead of them, they just blamed it all on the technology or the teacher or that kind of thing. And so their low frustration tolerance when the technology isn't doing exactly what they think it should has surprised me. Again, thinking before hitting send, remembering that tone doesn't necessarily come through or expression, asking for feedback. We've discussed flaming. I got a bit of an education on what it means to troll, and then very important to make sure that the students understand the kinds of things that are not allowed to be said online, preferably ever, but especially when it's part of what we're doing in the classroom. So these are the online etiquette rules that I give them within the first few days of school and expect them to follow through on. Next thing I want to look at real briefly is Turnitin.com, and this is kind of part of the consequences, helping them understand that what they do online has consequences. If you're not familiar with Turnitin.com, I have found it a wonderful service. You can see that this is my AP class. I have them turn in almost everything using Turnitin.com, and one of the reasons is that it just serves as a document repository for me. I'll hide my students' names here. You can see I wasn't really worried about, oh, this must have been a resubmission, which is why it's 100%. I wasn't really worried about copying on these. They were simply timed essays, but the files are now stored here, and so we can go back and get them if we need to, and that's wonderful. But here is a screenshot of a particular assignment where I did have a student, an international student, and I was worried about this 48%, so I pulled up his paper, and again, if you're not familiar with Turnitin.com, turnitin.com, this is what it does, is it'll show and highlight the different sections that are an exact match to something else on the internet. And now, I did not fail this student. I didn't discipline this student. What I felt that this indicated was I needed to teach this student. Okay, some people are against turnitin.com because it just automatically zings the student for what, for plagiarism or cheating. And the way I look at it is that this is an indication to me that we have a miscommunication going on, at least if it's the first time. And one of the things I tell the students is I was actually taking an online course for my master's work, and I did not know that my papers were automatically being funneled through turnitin.com. Now, I didn't have any problems with that. That wasn't an issue. But they were quite surprised to hear that, wow, you could be taking a class and your papers are automatically going into turnitin.com and you don't even know it. You're not the one uploading them. So to me, this is part of not just the etiquette, but also learning internet responsibility and recognizing that there are consequences to what they do. And maybe the consequence is that they simply need to learn more. But if a student really was attempting to plagiarize and they didn't understand, let's say they were taking an online course like I was, and they turned in a fully plagiarized paper, they could easily have been kicked out of the course. I want to show you my blogging site and would love to have you join me. Right now I've just been going through some Christmas posts, but I also do Teacher Tuesday and blog about what's happening in the classroom on a semi-frequent basis. One of the reasons I have blogged is because I really wanted to get involved in the social conversation, the virtual social conversation, and just get a feel for it myself. And what I've learned, of course, I used to be highly involved with America Online bulletin boards and chats from many, many years ago. So I'm kind of an online junkie or internet social networking junkie. But one of the things that I find is that the internet is not a pretend world the way my students seem to feel it is in some ways. It's real. It's full of real people. They're a real audience, and that can be a good thing. I've kind of mentioned some of the issues they need to be very careful about, but also it's something to really enjoy. And I enjoy blogging for an audience of people that I may not really see that often, and some of them I'll never see. But I've got a nice little readership, and I've enjoyed that. And I share that with my students, that I do some blogging, so that when I have them do some blogging, and here's an example of one of my students. This was a narrative about something he learned, and had their classmates. In this case, he got comments from 10 of his classmates on it. And you can see courage, story format, describing everything in detail, reminds me of the first time I got a long board. Didn't know you read that out intense, like how it came alive, great description. Hate it when that happens, a complaint, it wasn't long enough, and so there's two things happening here. One is I want the student who wrote this to enjoy the asynchronous feedback that he's getting. We didn't sit in a circle and actually give feedback to each other in the classroom, although at some points of the year we do that. But this was kind of a way to ease into it, so that rather than having to sit there and listen to somebody and somebody kind of stuttering and trying to tell them what they thought, they had a chance to think about it. The introverts especially love this. And so the writer of this piece, got some wonderful feedback from people he actually cares about, which is his peers, not me. And then the students who did the commenting are practicing a very important skill of giving feedback, of being able to find something specific to say. Now, in this case, I said positive only. They were so new to this that I said just find one thing, be as specific as you possibly can. So to me, it's really important that my students be practicing being involved in asynchronous conversations. My experience thus far is many of them who do go on to college find that most of the classes do have are hybrid, that there is a bulletin board, there is a forum, there is a place that they're going to interact through some kind of asynchronous communication, and they need to learn how to do it well. But then life is full of these opportunities. Many articles and editorials now have a comment section, or many blogs that I follow I enjoy commenting on and getting into a bit of a discussion with the people who've commented, and often even the blogger themselves. So I want to prepare my students. This isn't just something, oh, well, we're doing in class because Mrs. Gregory has the technology and thinks it's cool. I'm wanting to start preparing them. And in this case, these are sophomores, so they have several years before college. But I want to prepare them to enter into conversations, whether it's an academic conversation or just a polite social conversation, in a way that they have something significant to contribute.